So a few weeks ago, I was surfing Facebook, and one of my new friends, Jason Goggans, popped up on my feed and started talking about a 7-day weight loss program that he had. Now, this is not something I would normally join because I personally like to do things difficult, complicated, and way out there. But somehow I clicked on join. I still don't know why. And I found myself in this 7-day weight loss workshop. Once we started, even before we started, I was like, I'm not going to do this thing. But I'm like, oh, but you already signed up. So now we know it's a 10. So you're going to be in this
Right.
thing. So I joined Jason's group, and Jason started talking about his philosophy on nutrition, on weight loss, on all this stuff. And it was so simple and so useful. And what I will say is I lost 5 pounds in the week that I was in that weight loss. So I brought Jason Goggans, who's a former police officer, brick and mortar gym owner, and now a fitness and nutrition coach for over 20 years. I mean, it's over 6,000 people have had the benefit of this man's wisdom. He's a husband and a father of 4 and just a regular old guy. And now we know he's 44, so he's in middle age. So he's perfect for this podcast. Jason, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me and doing such a great job on that challenge. You know, it's funny because that 7 days is more meant to set you up for weight loss success, because how much can you really do in 7 days? You know, but you lost 5 pounds, which is just speaks to when you do things right, how quickly things can move.
Okay. Well, we'll learn soon exactly what I was doing wrong with all my knowledge, because I could actually teach. I could teach nutrition. I could teach, food, stuff about food and all that stuff. What I can't teach is how I was lying to myself, which is what you taught me. But let's just dial this back. So you were a police officer, and if you go to Jason's website, which there will be a link to it, you can get this story of how he became this fitness guru. But the story is really kind of moving. Jason, why is this important to you? Why do you care about people losing weight?
So it's really a multifaceted reason. It's well, first of all, if you want to go back to my police officer days, I just enjoyed watching people progress. I enjoyed watching them have success. And a little bit about that story you spoke of is I went through the police academy, and when I got out, I went to a shift on the police force that was very busy and was not a lot of time to eat. So I would hit drive-throughs, and I would literally hit a drive-through on the way to a call. And I did that every day, and I put on quite a bit of weight, and I took it all off. And I started getting people asking me, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? And I started helping people do it. And that's kind of how the career evolved. But it was fun for me to watch people transform. It was fun for me to watch people, the excitement they had and the aha moments they had in the process. And
hold on, man, I'm going to slow you down. So you skipped a really good point.
Okay.
A really good part.
Yeah.
You gained 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're in your early 20s.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
hard to do in your early 20s. You must have been packing on some food, right?
Yeah.
And you chased down some perps, and you found yourself so out of breath that you could barely do what you needed to do in arresting the people. And that was your wake up call. Right?
Yeah.
So this is firsthand stuff that you're talking about. This isn't theoretical. You really were destroying your health.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And it was could put your life in danger and other people's life in danger.
Yeah, it's funny. I was a police officer for, little 5 or 6 years, whatever 5 years and some months, whatever it is. But I don't remember a whole lot. It was a long time ago, and I don't remember a whole lot of my individual calls. But that's the one that I'll never forget, because if anybody wants to hear the quick story, I'll make it a real quick story. But it was me and some other officers. We pulled up to the house, and we saw these 6 guys run out, and they were fast. So, but we had our car. So, long story short, we were able to. I was able to pull my car around. I saw one cutting across the street, jumped out, and started chasing. What I didn't include in the story on my website is, so the cars have video cameras. You can see me jumping out of the car running, and just my belly when I'm running. And I wasn't morbidly obese, but I had a belly. And, you can see the belly, and you can see how slow I was moving. So even the video footage of it was embarrassing enough of it. But I got lucky, and the perp I was chasing, he kind of went behind the house, up a hill, stumbled, and I want to say I caught him, but I didn't. I just got lucky and fell on him because I was so exhausted and out of breath. And I did. I went to radio the radio on my shoulder, and I could not get a word out. I'd been sprinting for, I don't know how, not that long. I mean, this wasn't a 10-minute chase. It was, very quick, but I couldn't get a word out. I couldn't speak. I was so out of shape. And it was from months and months of eating fast food, and being inactive and not taking care of myself. And I just come out of the police academy, which was very physically demanding. And I think mentally I said, I'm not going to work out for a while. And I put the brakes on that. And yeah, so the combination of not being able to speak on the radio and the video footage of me running and being like, oh, that was like, sometimes you have to be slapped in the face with the reality of how bad things have gotten. And that's kind of what happened there. Seeing those, I couldn't speak. And the video footage of me being quite overweight was a huge wake-up call.
So, so for me, the whole, I think the reason that I pressed click for you was because nobody would ever say that I'm overweight. People tell me I look good, especially for my age, I look great, all that stuff. And I do exercise and I eat really, really healthy, but my clothes don't fit anymore. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to get new clothes. Right. And what really bugs me is I'm an executive coach. I'm a guy who's supposed to have his shit together, and I'm supposed to be able to have a goal and be able to go towards it. Right. And then be able to do the mindset and do all that stuff. And for some reason, for the last couple of years, have not been able to drop the weight that I want to fit into my clothes the way I want. And I've always been able to do that. So my wake up call was I'm got myself into my Hugo Boss suit and could barely close my pants. Right.
Yeah.
So, those little wake up calls of where we were lying to ourselves, where we look in the mirror, and it happens slowly over time. And then all at once, you're like, shit, got to do something. And, what I love about your philosophy is it cuts through all that bullshit. So now let's fast forward to who you are today and what you actually do. Let's just talk about your philosophy. Tell me, because one of the things you said to me really cool was in the middle of the program, you said, this isn't a nutrition program. This is a weight loss program. Right? Everything I'm teaching you right now is not about nutrition. It's about weight loss. And you said because of the obesity epidemic in America, that's killing people way more than chemicals in our food.
Yeah, and a couple things to kind of to parse through there. First and foremost, you talk about being an executive coach, and you need to have your stuff together and all that. And I would submit that you do, but I think this is the lesson for people: is you can have your stuff together. You can, have the best of intentions. You can be dedicated, dialed in, motivated, working hard. But if you're doing the wrong things and you're following the wrong plan, you're never going to get where you want to be. So you do better than most, I would say. But if you don't have the right information, if you're an executive coach, a business coach, or any kind of coach, you know that people can work hard and still not get results because they have the wrong information. And unfortunately, the nutrition industry and fitness industry is rampant with that. And to your point, as we're recording this, the coronavirus is all the rage right now. And at the end of the day, with way more people going to die of obesity today than we're going to have coronavirus ever, probably. Not, I don't know about ever, but in the next year anyway. And we're focusing on the wrong thing. So my philosophy on nutrition is how can we get the result for somebody in a way that fits their life? And as you went through that challenge, hopefully that was highlighted for you. Is there's a lot of rigidity in my field, in my industry, and it's one way, my way or the highway. And what my industry has a tendency to do, trainers, coaches, and all that, is say, if you can't follow my plan, there's something wrong with you. This works. It worked for me. It works for some of my clients. So if it doesn't work for you, it's because there's something wrong with you. And I've always had a problem with that because I don't agree with that at all. I think you're trying to fit round pegs and square holes, or square pegs and round holes, however you want to say it. And my job as a nutrition coach is to figure out, okay, let's take the science of fat loss. Because listen, we know how fat loss works. This is not a mystery. It may seem confusing.
It was a mystery. I'm telling you right now, it was a freaking mystery to me until I met you. Because again, keto, paleo, knock out the carbs, do this, do that, exercise, all that stuff. And until you just black and white said it, didn't get it all. So go.
Yeah. So there's a lot, again, as I was saying, it's not a mystery to those of us who research it and teach it. But it's a mystery to the public because the reality of how fat loss occurs has been kind of kept behind the curtain, and at the end of the day, every diet whose goal is fat loss does so by getting you into a caloric deficit. It's the law of thermodynamics. It cannot be avoided. It is not a theory that calories in, calories out is what matters most. It is a law that that's what matters most. It gets jaded and it gets confused because people, there's a lot of variabilities to how to apply it to your life. And the way that you apply it to your life might be different than the way I apply it to my life. And there's some things that can affect it. I saw a good analogy actually this morning. It's funny, is like the law of gravity. Nobody would argue that, right? But if I throw a brick off a building and a feather off a building, they're going to react differently. And one might look at the feather and say, well, see, then the law of gravity is not true. Because look at that feather. Well, there's things like wind resistance and air resistance. There's other factors at play that can affect it, but it doesn't change the fact that gravity exists and it is a law that we all have to live with. It was same with fat loss, is you have to consume fewer calories than you burn. If you do not do that, it is physically impossible for you to lose weight or burn body fat. Impossible. And if you're in a caloric surplus, eating more than you burn, then you're going to gain weight. That is inarguable. You're going to gain weight. So the question becomes, how do we take the law of thermodynamics, the law of calories in, calories out, and apply it to each individual's life? And that's where the variability comes in. And that's where I think people get lost in the weeds a little bit, is the law is what it is. How we apply it to each person's life is where the variability is. Because now you're bringing in things like food preferences, emotional hangups. You know, you're a stress eater. Do you eat, turn to the high calorie foods when you're had a bad day? Do you like working out? Do you not? Are you sedentary? Are you not sedentary? Do you move a lot? That's where the variability comes in. But we can't escape the fact that calories in, calories out is what works. And when you, Mark, you go on a keto or anything like that, intermittent fasting, any of these things that are hot right now, if you lost weight on those, it is because you established a caloric deficit. The only caveat being with keto, sometimes you'll get a 10-pound, 12-pound weight loss at first, which is water weight, because you're pulling the carbohydrates out, which pulls the water out of your muscles, and you lose water weight. That's a little bit different. But any fat that's lost was lost because you established a caloric deficit. And with keto, you did it by eliminating carbohydrates, a huge macronutrient in your life. And with things like intermittent fasting, you're doing it by reducing your feeding window, which means there's less opportunity to eat and things like that. So what my goal in life is to get the word out that if you want to lose fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. How you establish that caloric deficit is kind of up to you.
So I'm going to stop you now so that I can just say lie number one for me was I could do intermittent fasting and be in ketosis. And then in my mind, it was the more chocolate fat bombs that I ate, the more weight I would burn and lose. Right. Like, and I lied to myself with the amount of food that I was able to eat. I was in ketosis. I'm doing it all right. The inflammation is down and all that, but I'm stuffing myself with calories.
Yeah.
And that was such an aha moment for me because I watch all the people in my world who are on the keto diet and they're stuffing themselves with bacon and cheeseburgers and all this shit. Right.
Yeah.
And one, it's unsustainable, and two, it's kind of unhealthy now that we think about it. But three, it is still calories in, calories out. So that was the first thing that you busted for me on day one.
Yeah. And here's the thing about those diets like keto, intermittent fasting, and I'm not anti those things. I want to make that perfectly clear, but we got to keep them in their proper context. They're just tools. They're tools to establish a caloric deficit. The issue I have with fad dieting is this, and you'll see me on social media kind of railing against it a little bit, is what started off as a good intention of, hey, here's a way somebody can lose weight, the ketogenic diet. Here's a way somebody can lose weight, intermittent fasting, has turned into people becoming zealots. And now if somebody loses 20 pounds on keto, they want to tell the whole world that keto is the answer. It is the way. And I'm here to tell you it's not the way, it is a way. And it's only a way if it fits you and your preferences. And the reason, listen, as many people that lose weight on keto gain weight on keto. You may not hear from them as much because they're not yet.
That would be me. I've lost weight on keto and I've gained weight on keto, and I know what the difference was, and it was absolutely the amount of food.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you get as many people failing on the diet as succeed. And now I want to play to people's common sense here. Okay. So the whole idea behind the ketogenic diet, I'm going to talk about keto. This can apply to so many different kind of diets, but let's pick on keto a little bit here because it's fun. But the ketogenic diet, theoretically, you go into ketosis and then your body's using fat as fuel over carbohydrates and all these things. It also falls back on the carbohydrate insulin model of obesity, where insulin is the main driver of fat stores and all that. This is where we got to use common sense. If that were the case, then why would people gain weight on keto? It would be if that was what caused fat loss, fat gain, then it would be the magic bullet. We found it. End of story. Game over. Keto's the answer. But more people fail on keto than succeed. And, having said that, so many people lose weight, or so many more people lose weight while eating carbohydrates than do on keto. And it's not because that's inherently better either. It's because it's more sustainable. And if we can go ahead with the knowledge that calories matter most, okay? We have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. That is what matters most. The next thing we have to consider now is our ability to adhere to the way of eating. So if I can impart anything on anybody listening, it would be, we have to find a way to get you in a caloric deficit consistently and do so in a way you can adhere to for the long haul. Because things like keto and things like that, you're eliminating carbohydrates. And when I ask people, listen, are you really going to eliminate carbohydrates for the rest of your life? You're never going to have another donut, brownie, alcohol, piece of cake at your kid's birthday party. You're never going to have candy, cookies, ice cream. That's gone forever. Bread, most fruits, all that's gone out of your life forever? Reasonably speaking, of course not. So then what you've done is you've gone into a plan that inherently you cannot sustain. And that becomes the definition of a yo-yo diet, right? We start, we stop, we start, we stop. And when I say yo-yo dieting is wrecking you, it is wrecking you. It kills your metabolism through something called metabolic adaptation. It can cause you to create new fat cells, make it harder to lose weight down the line. Mentally, it messes you up because now you failed again, maybe for the 10th, 12th, 15th time. So we have to find something that gets you in a caloric deficit, because that is the law of fat loss, and do so sustainably. And that's what, hopefully you learned in the challenge market is those core tenets. How do we get you there? And how do we get you there sustainably? Because once you get there sustainably, everything changes. It's an absolute game changer with fat loss once you establish those two things.
So give me some examples of sustainably, because I want to jump in and tell people what I found for my answer, but I think that's premature. So you tell me some different ways that people can sustainably watch their calorie intake.
Yeah, so it's going to be very individualistic. Again, we're not going to get away from that. It's going to be an individualistic thing, because at the end of the day, we're all different. Our food preferences are different. Our lifestyles are different. Our schedules are different. Our social calendars are different. And picking on keto, again, I hate to do that because I'm really not anti-keto, even though it may not sound like it. I think people can lose weight on it. And if you don't like carbohydrates, that's not a big part of your life, it can work for you. But you have to find a way that fits all of that. So and maybe this is what you're getting at. Here's how I coach people. The first thing I think everyone should do is learn how to track their calories. And even as those words leave my lips, there's people listening to your podcast, moaning and groaning, turning it off maybe because they don't want to hear that they got to track calories. But here's the thing. And I love to use the money analogy when it comes to this, because if you went to a financial planner and that financial planner said to you, all right, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, I need you to track your income. I need you to track your expenditures. I need you to track your investments and make sure that you're on top of that stuff. So we know what's coming in. We got to know what's going out. We have to know. You would look at them in the eye and say, absolutely, makes total sense. I'm in. If that same financial advisor said to you, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I can get you in a great financial position. You don't have to track it. You don't have to track your income. We don't need to know your numbers. We don't need to know your investments. We don't need to know how much you're saving. I don't need any of that, but I can get you there. You would think he or she was crazy. The total opposite is the case with fat loss. Is when someone tells you need to track, that's crazy. When someone tells you don't need to, okay, that's more reasonable. But it's the same principle. If you want control over your fat loss, if you want control over your results, you have to know expenditures or intake and expenditures. You have to know those numbers, at least for a while. And the best way to do that up front is to track. And the beauty of modern technology is that tracking has become so incredibly easy now. If you look back 30 years ago, 25 years ago, it was pen and paper. And even before foods had ingredients labels on them, how would you even know the caloric value of the food you're eating? It was really tedious and arduous to do. Today we have use our phone button on a phone and hit an app, type in some things, and within 5 minutes we can track our entire food for the day. It has become so incredibly easy. So I love to start people with, hey, let's figure out together how much you're expending every day, what you're burning, as close as we possibly can through some mathematical formulas that have been tested many times over, so we know how much is going out. And once we know that number, now we can calculate what needs to be going in and how to create the proper caloric deficit to elicit the result that you want. And that will, if you want to be truly educated and empowered over your fat loss, that will require some tracking at first. Otherwise, you're going to continue to fly blind, and it's going to be really hard to get any traction long-term with your weight loss and fat loss.
So this is just the secret.
Yeah.
So we downloaded an app, and I think it was MyFitnessPal. I threw on my phone. And I had no idea. If I had a tablespoon of raw almond butter, I just put raw almond butter in the app, and it tells me how many calories it is. I have cauliflower pizza. I pick the one that's closest to the one I eat. It throws the calories in there. You can do the servings. You can do all this stuff, and it tracks the calories.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I was shocked. Within the first day, after the first day, I felt more relaxed around food than I had in years. I felt empowered, just like you said. I felt free. Like tracking actually made me free. And now that I'm on day 8 now of tracking, and what I learned is if someone says, "Okay, we're going out for pizza tonight," which would strike fear in my heart. Because one, I don't eat wheat, I don't eat sugar, I just don't eat all this stuff. If I watch how I'm eating during the day, I have 1,000 calories to spend tonight. I can enjoy with everybody.
Yeah.
And what I found also is I haven't even been able to get close to my calories, which is shocking to me. It has been so easy, the freedom. And I actually have decided to not worry about nutrition this past week. Just get a hold of the calories. So I've been eating mashed potatoes. I've been eating some bread. I've been eating all the things I don't usually eat. Dropping weight like crazy, eating mashed potatoes. How the hell is that happening? Right? And what I decided to do was to bring back the common sense and the really smart green leafy vegetables, less fats, all that stuff, in the future. But right now, really enjoy the freedom it feels to have consciousness around what I'm doing.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, when people talk about calories in, calories out, people are always going to hear what they want to hear. And they tend to hear me say, eat whatever you want. Eat candy bars all day, you'll lose weight. That's not what I mean. And what it does do, though, is give you freedom to have those things as long as you budget for them. And to come back to the money analogy, it's like if I was going on vacation and I knew that vacation was going to cost me $2,000, I might spend a little less the week before, or the month before, spend a little less the month after to save up the money to go on the vacation.
Go skydiving and parasailing.
Exactly. The same thing with your food. What you're doing and what people do is once you have control, because you're tracking, you can bank up calories for some of the foods you enjoy. If I know that every night I just like a small bowl of ice cream, then I make sure I've got the calories left over for it. And now if we can couple that with eating, like you said, you're going to bring back in the leafy greens and the nutritious stuff. Yeah, if you can get 80% of your calories from nutrient-dense whole foods, fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins, healthy fats, and save 20% a day for the stuff you love, man, this becomes much more sustainable. And like I said, it just gives you control back, and you're not flying blindly anymore. And again, if you can just mentally in your mind equate calorie budgeting to financial budgeting, you'll see the parallels. And one, you're like, oh, heck yeah, you want to financially budget and track. And the other one, people want to, frown upon. But at the end of the day, if you want control over your weight loss, you want control over your body and all that, you have to have the skill set and the tracking ability to do that. That doesn't mean you have to track for the rest of your life, because here's what happens is once you track long enough, it becomes intuitive.
Mm.
And you start to understand the caloric load that your foods have, and you understand portions. And once you get a good feel for that, for some people it takes a month, some people it takes 5 years, and everything in between. But there will come a day where you can do it intuitively. But until then, it's so important, because I'll tell you, man, the biggest eye-opening thing, and maybe you realize this too, is just how many calories we're eating that we didn't realize. And
That's
whether it's the
that
butter
lie.
you're putting in the pan, whether it's the oil you're doing this, and you got this fad that came out a few years ago about putting coconut oil in everything. Coconut oil is fine. I'm not coming from a
Guilty,
health
guilty,
perspective.
guilty.
Yes, but it is a calorie bomb, right? And at the end of the day, you start adding up all these excess calories, because we tell ourselves, I'm not eating that much. I'm not eating that much. But if you look at every
Get out
study,
of my head. Get out of my head.
yeah,
Now.
exactly. If you look at every study we are wildly inaccurate at estimating how many calories we eat. I mean, up to 78% off on our caloric guesses. And there's something that has been studied, and it's 18 to 78% off, depending on how overweight you are, believe it or not. The more overweight you are, the more you misestimate, and you actually underestimate how much you eat. And guess what? Concurrently, we overestimate how much we move and burn. We think we move way more
So
than we
cool. So that's what I want to move into now, because
Yeah.
the other thing I found was, we talked about, you had us take exercise out of the equation for now. Not to not exercise, but take it out of your calorie counting exercise, out of the app. So what I found was, but when I put in the app, I thought, oh my God, I could eat whatever I want because I swim for 23 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I put it in the app, and swimming for 23 minutes was 211 calories, not the
Yeah.
Michael Phelps 6,000 calories that I thought it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that just shocked me. And so let's go back into what you talked about, uh, focused exercise versus what you do all day long. You're fidgeting, your standing desks, all that. My standing desk is on the way right now. I got a thing. It's going to
Yeah.
be here today. But talk about that movement piece.
So I'm going to talk about it from two perspectives. The focus of your show is midlife, right? And we hear all the time, as you age, your metabolism tanks. There is a grain of truth to that. Our metabolism does slow as we age, but it is not near as much as we think it is. And it is not an inevitability, if I can get that word out, that your metabolism does slow. So you've been told, as you age, your metabolism is going to slow. And what I hate about that is it takes the control away from you, right?
Oh, no, wait. Here's even better.
Yeah.
I've been telling people, now that I'm in my late 50s, my metabolism has slowed so badly that I can barely eat. And what I found out now this past week is I have lied to everybody about
You didn't lie.
too.
You're just mistaken. But
I'm totally mistaken.
When early in my fitness career as a coach, I was mistaken on some of this stuff too. So none of us are immune to it. But at the end of the day, here's what happens as we age. It's not so much that our metabolism's slow, our lifestyle's slow, our energy decreases. We move far less than we did when we were younger. As adults, we like to look at kids and say, man, they got boundless energy. They never stop. They never slow down. Well, you look at a teenager, they're always moving, playing sports, playing outside. You get in your 20s, maybe you're in college and you're walking around campus and you're maybe playing intramural sports and you're going out dancing and all these things. You move so much when you're younger that you can afford to eat a little more food because your caloric output is so much more. But as we age, a few things happen concurrently. We do have a small dip in metabolism. It is there, but it's not near as much as people have made it out to be. Number two is we have this thing called responsibilities. That mean we have to sit on our butts now and we have to make money and we have to, cover all that life has to offer, driving in cars, sitting at desks. We lay in our beds. We sit and lay all day long. If you look at the average American's life, we lay in a bed, we wake up, we get ready, we go sit in a car or a bus or subway, wherever you're at. Then we go to our office, sit at a desk, and then we get up, we go back to our car, subway, bus, we go home, we sit on our couch, we go back, we lay in our beds. And in between that, there's some walking, sure, there's some movement, but not near enough to have a significant caloric burn. And that is why we gain weight as we age. But here's what happens. Our movement tanks, our output tanks, but we don't ever change the eating habits to go along with it. So to bring it back to the money analogy, because I think that resonates with people, it's the equivalent of saying, I'm going to spend a bunch of money, but I'm not going to make any more. Well, you can see how that would cause an issue. But flipping that when it comes to calories and burning, now you're sitting more and moving less, but you didn't adjust your caloric intake for that. Now, and if you want to talk about multifaceted, I can go on a tangent here. Now we're going to couple that with life stress, anxiety and things like that drive us to want to eat food. Food is our mental Band-Aid. It makes us feel better. That glass or two or three or four or five of wine at night, the chocolate ice cream we're having at night, the pizza we're having at night to cover up the stress and make us feel better, get that quick dopamine hit that makes us feel good. That's what happens as we age. So we don't address our caloric intake, but our caloric output plummets. And that's why we're gaining weight. So our goal and your goal in life is to flip that, which is difficult to do because we are older. We do have less natural energy, but it absolutely can be done. But you have to find a way to intake less and expend more. And that will always be the law of fat loss.
So the gym membership is one thing, going, working out, swimming, running, walking, whatever, weightlifting, and you talk about the need to do resistance training. But the exercise is one thing. But you're talking about lifestyle, like how many calories you burn when you exercise versus how many calories you're burning all day long. And I love that thought.
Yeah. So to parlay on what I just said. So now here's what we do. We have this sedentary life. We're not moving. Our caloric intake's still high. And we think, I'll just go to the gym and I'll burn a bunch of calories in the gym and I'll offset that. You're not going to offset 16 hours of sitting with a 30, 45-minute workout. Impossible. You don't burn as many calories working out, you already touched on this, as you think you do. And it's not even close. And, a good solid workout may burn 400 or 500 calories. That is really, really working right there to burn that much. These gyms that tell you burn 1,000 calories an hour, typically not. They may have one or two people they've studied that they did, but most people aren't because you don't have the fitness level to push that hard for an hour. And most of these classes aren't a full hour of actual high intensity work anyway. But you're not going to burn that many in a workout like you think you are. So you're not offsetting all the sitting by working out. So what do? Well, we have to establish more of a caloric output by moving more throughout the day outside of exercise, right? And it's called our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. I call it your NEAT. And you have to increase your NEAT. So that means getting more steps throughout the day, taking the stairs, not parking so close to the front door of the shopping center or your office. It means, again, you need to have a big X across escalators and elevators, right? It means playing with the kids in the backyard when you get home, taking the dog for a longer walk, doing things around the house when you get home instead of plopping down. Any one of those things taken by itself in one day may sound negligible. But if you can take 2 or 3 of those things, implement them day in, day out, and get your movement, not including exercise, up concurrently while getting better control over your caloric intake, those 2 things alone can elicit the fat loss result that you want. Now you're using exercise as a fat loss aid. It can aid the process by giving you a little bit more of a caloric output. But now we're putting exercise in its proper place. Its proper place, it can make you stronger. It can improve your heart and lung health. It can help you maintain muscle while you lose weight because you can sacrifice lean muscle in a caloric deficit. It can give you energy. It can boost your mental acuity, make your brain work better. It can improve your mood. It can do all these amazing things. So it very much should be a part of your life. But what we do is we make it the holy grail of fat loss is I got to exercise. And once we start to realize I can exercise all day long, but if I'm eating more than I burn, I'm not losing weight and I'm not losing fat, right? So we have to not use exercise as our main fat loss tool, but use it as an aid and use it as a something to improve our health, but use a caloric output throughout the rest of the day and controlling our caloric intake to elicit the fat loss and not rely on exercise like most people do. I'm just going to join a gym or go start running every day and I'll lose a bunch of weight. Not going to happen. And last thing I'll say about that is another issue with exercise is has a potential for some people to make you really hungry. Well, here's the downside of that.
That happened to me when I started swimming. Like I got really hungry, but again, I'm Michael Phelps, so I can eat whatever I want.
And you nailed it, Mark, right? That is the 2 things that happen. I exercise hard. I think I'm going to lose weight. It makes me hungrier, so I'm more inclined to eat more. I'm going to eat those calories back that I just burned in the gym or in the pool. And I've convinced myself I burned a ton of calories over there so I can afford to have these calories. And you can't when you're trying to eat in a caloric deficit. You got to maintain that deficit. So wrapping that all up, The only way to be sure that I'm expending what I need to and intaking what I need to create that deficit that we need is by tracking. And until we get a handle on that, it's going to be a struggle, and you will fight and battle weight the rest of your life until you learn how to do that.
Incredible. The simplicity of your message, the directness of your message is so refreshing. I'm nominating you for Surgeon General. I
That's
really appreciate it.
hilarious.
So how can people join this? Because that seems to be one of your the first introductions to you is your 7-day weight loss clinic.
Yeah, and I do that for a couple of reasons. One is not everybody's going to want to work with me, and I can't work with everybody. So if you come through my 7-day fat loss challenge, it's totally free. You will learn what you need to do this on your own. You will. There'll be a subset of people that then say, great, I got it, but now I need your help to individualize it, customize it, hold me accountable, and that's great too. But the 7-day fat loss, I want as many people as possible to go through that so you can learn the same things you learn and learn just how simple, I didn't say easy sometimes, but simple fat loss can be. So if you want more information on that, you can go to my website. It's jasongoggansfitness.com, JASONGOGGANS fitness.com. You'll see a tab at the top there for that fat loss challenge. The next one starts on March 23rd, so just a couple weeks from airing of this. If you're listening to this later down the line, then we run them about once a month, so you can always go to the website and see when the next one is starting. And if you want to connect with me outside of that challenge, you can also look me up on Facebook just by my name, Jason Goggans, and also on Instagram at Jason Goggans Fitness.
And what I'll do is I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so
Perfect.
that we flood your next program, because really for me it was a game changer, a life changer. You gave me a sense of power. In fact, you did an assessment like how confident are you that you could reach your weight loss and fitness goals at the beginning, and I was really so sad to see that I was really low on that, and now I'm like, I got this. This is so simple, and it's just given me so much of my life back because of my fighting with food all this time. That I'm grateful that I met you. Thank you.
I'm thankful as well, and it's one of those things that if you do come through the challenge, I hope everyone takes it as seriously as you did, because listen, at the end of the day, you engaged, you took it seriously, you watched the videos, you actually wanted to learn, and now it's changed your life in so many ways. And if you come through the challenge, take it like Mark did, because he's the real deal, and he is a dream person I want coming through my challenge. And you see what happens on the other end, that he's got control back. And that's what we all want, right? Is control. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on the show. First of all, I appreciate you being in the challenge and being so awesome. And anything I can do for you moving forward, let me know.
That's awesome. So again, I'll put all the ways to get in touch with Jason on the show notes. Jason, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, man.
And to all my incredible listeners, your time and attention is the most precious thing to me. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.